So, yeah, this happened to you in just the other day, like Friday, Thursday?
Friday, just on Friday. Yep, 2 days ago.
Okay, and I'm reading the comments here, and it's not what you think. It's not someone just said gender bathroom. It wasn't it wasn't like a family bathroom, was it?
No, it was the girls' restroom, a
Okay.
three-stall girls' bathroom.
Okay,
Yes, in the mall.
normal girls' bathroom. So you were out with the
Yes,
family or your daughter and you were
my
shopping, or
daughter. Yep.
so you go to the Oakland Mall just to see what's going on, or
Yeah, it was her birthday, and so we were just birthday shopping, like giving her money to go shopping for her birthday. And we had just left another mall. We stopped there, and her friend really had to go to the bathroom. And I said, all right, I'm going to go into this store. You guys go into the bathroom, you know, and I'll meet you over there. We'll decide if we want to stay here any stores or not, and then we'll take off. Um, and so I had tried to call her a few times just to say, like, hey, where are you at? And it only been like 15 minutes, but I was like, I did a perusal, and I was like, I don't see her, and she wasn't answering her call. And then I look up, and she's literally running towards me, her and her friend, and she's just shaking. She's all worked up, and she's like, we got to go. I got to get out of here now. And then she had told me what happened. So they both went into the bathroom. Two stalls were occupied. And she told her friend, you have to go. You go first. I'll wait out here. Well, while she was standing by the sinks waiting, a gentleman opened one of the stall doors and walked out. And she was at first just surprised, but then she said at first it didn't even register. She was just like, maybe it's a gender type thing. But then she noticed really quickly that the gentleman had no pants on and he had a full erection. And
wow.
so she said she was so scared, he started walking towards her, and she said she literally backed herself up into the corner and just stood there. And she said, I've always thought, like, in these situations, I would run, I would scream, I would fight back. But she said she couldn't believe, like, she said in her head, she kept saying, you need to yell, but she couldn't find her voice even. She was so scared. And she said he literally, like, smirked at her and kind of smiled, but then he like turned and started shaking the door of the other stall where one of the girls was in it. And her friend thought, Ellie, knock it off. She thought it was Ellie teasing her. So
Yeah.
she opens the door and comes out and doesn't even like, she said it doesn't register right away. She sees a guy too and was like, oh, this is creepy. But again, they're so programmed to be like, if there's a guy in the girl's bathroom, he has a right to be there now, right?
I
So
Yeah.
she just kind of sees him and goes to wash her hands, doesn't even look down. But when she looks in the mirror, she sees this guy is bending over and looking at the stall underneath the stall of the other girl. And that's when she said she's seen his naked butt and realized, oh my God, this guy's naked. So she looks at Ellie, and Ellie's still like panicking. And they're like, we got to get out. We got to get out. And so they both like run to the door and open it to go out. And then Ellie says, there's someone else in here. And her friend was like, we've got to get out. And Ellie, so she said they were kind of scared. They didn't want to say anything to him.
Yeah.
But so they opened the door while they were standing in there. And Ellie was like, whoever's in the stall, you need to get out. There's a naked guy in here. And he was just trying to bend over to look under your door. And she said the person was like, you're kidding me. And she's like, no, get out. So they stood in the doorway. And then she said when that girl opened the door, it was like a 12-year-old girl.
Oh my god.
And so
So they
she ran
stayed there.
out with them.
They didn't know that girl. They stayed there to help her.
Yeah, they didn't know her. Ellie just thought, she said at first, like her friend was like, I was scared to say anything, but Ellie said, what if that would have been my mom or my sister? Like anything could have happened if she's in there alone, right? And she came out and she's alone with this guy in a bathroom. Because like Ellie said, he's naked, he had a full erection, very aware of what was going on. So when they were walking down the hallway, they seen other women coming and they were like, don't go in there, and told them. They went to the security officer, who was a female, and they told her. She called for backup, and like 4 security officers. I mean, they were there within a minute, Ellie
Okay.
said, and they escorted the man out of the bathroom. Um, when they escorted him out, there was people that came running up, and they were like, "Oh, we're his friends. We're his friends." Like, and they started to explain what had happened, and they said like, "Oh, he has a mental issue. It's not his fault." And so then they just made him leave the mall.
Okay.
So they
Wow.
didn't ask us for our phone number. They didn't ask any identification. They didn't, as far, I don't even know if they got his identification. When I called to talk to them all, they just said, we didn't do a report because he had some type of mental disability.
Wow. Someone's asking in the comments how old you have a teenager, and they were all like teenagers.
14.
Oh, teens.
14.
Okay.
Yep.
And someone in the comments just said that mall's not the greatest, but that I grew up in Metro Detroit. That mall used to be decent,
Right.
but it's
Yes.
yeah, it's gone downhill. But
It
that but
definitely has.
but still that doesn't matter. The mental issues. So in a situation like that, well, the way you describe it, that's a crime.
Mhm.
Um, and if the person does in fact have mental issues, that that would be up for a judge to decide whether, the culpability, because what's to say this person may not do that again, but next time might do it when there's not friends that, or yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So he didn't have, like if it was some type of severe issue, there was no caretaker that was with him in the bathroom. He was obviously walking around the mall by himself. My daughter is very aware of her surroundings, very, she's been around a lot of, she's been to places where we've served food to help homeless in different places and helped at mental places. And so she's been around that.
yeah,
And one of the first things is I asked them is I was like, was it somebody that was on drugs? Maybe did they seem confused? Was it someone with maybe mental issue? And she had said, she was like, no, like the way he looked at me and smirked, he knew exactly what he was doing. Like there is no doubt in her mind. Like she's like, he didn't seem drunk. He didn't seem like anything was wrong with him. Um,
yeah.
so I don't know. Like he very well could have a mental issue. The friends could have said he has a mental issue to get him out of there. But either way, having a mental issue doesn't mean that someone's not going to hurt somebody, and that his intentions seemed very clear when he's standing in there with a full erection.
Yeah, was this an older guy, or any idea what kind of age this?
Mid-age.
Okay,
Yeah.
35, 40, 40 something.
Right, to her, she said older, so which would mean a little bit older than me, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? I'm
Okay.
48, so but, their judgment of what is old
Yeah.
is
I'm an old man. I'm 49. So,
right.
and a lot of people can second guess, like, why didn't you call the police? But you would trust that the mall security would have a protocol in place. That
Well, I assumed that they took care of it, and I really at the time wasn't thinking. She was really shook up, and they were like, "We don't like it here. We feel uncomfortable. We
yeah,
wanna go." And
obviously,
like I said, when I had walked in, it was just kind of the vibe was different than the year. I haven't been there in years. And so
yeah.
we just decided after that happened, we're like, okay, let's get out of here. We get in the car and I call my husband, and then he was like, did you do the report? Did this happen? Did they take your number? And then I kind of realized like, yeah, I should have, but I didn't do any of that. So then I did call them all. And that's when I called them all and I asked if they were going to do a police report. And she said no, because he had a mental issue, but that if I wanted to do one, I could come back down there and fill one out.
Would that be someone's commenting who he lives in North Carolina now, but he grew up down there? Is that the Troy Police Department?
Yes.
Okay, so they
Well,
say
and
you.
I contacted them all, and then I called the Troy Police Department directly, their non-emergency number, and a lady answered, and I explained the whole situation, what had happened to her, and I said I would just like to make a report about it, so, it's known. Um, Basically, so, like, if this guy does do this again, they know it's not a first offense thing, that there's an issue or something like that even.
Yeah.
And they told me that they won't do any type of report over the phone, but if I want to come down there, they were like, if you want to do one, you can, but you don't have to, is her exact words. And it was like, it to them, it just didn't seem like a big deal.
You shouldn't
So
have
I'm
to
thinking
beg.
they
You
probably
shouldn't.
have huge things they deal with down there. Um, but if we would have if they would have left that girl in the bathroom and something would have happened, then it would have been a very big deal, right?
Did the
So
yeah, did the mall take his name or info or license or
I
anything?
don't, I really don't know. She didn't tell me that information. She just told me that they weren't doing a report because the people he was with said he had a mental disability.
Yeah. Now, like you're saying, I know you, you know me. I live in an area that is somewhat rural, and I grew up in Metro Detroit. And yes, they do have a lot going on,
Mhm.
but what's to say that individual it could have been a heck of a lot worse. I mean,
Yes.
someone just said mall security dropped the ball. Well, absolutely. And someone just said mental issue is no excuse. And yeah, like you said, if they honestly do have mental issues, they need help because the crime that was committed right there, I'm not sure what degree, but that is a crime that would put you on a sex offender registry. And in
Mhm.
that instance, those are the type of people that might need to be on the registry so that people are aware of what
Right.
those people are. Is this the first time anything like this ever happened with you, your family, or anything?
Um, yeah, I mean, we travel a ton,
Oh,
right? My husband works around the country, and so we travel a lot, and we've had like little things where we've been like, oh, that seemed kind of odd, or had like the hair in the back of your neck stand up, but nothing like, you know what I mean? Like, so nothing like this has ever happened, no, to her before, ever.
and I have an 11-year-old, and I I was talking about this with my wife the other day, and I would think even if I'm standing outside a bathroom, I shouldn't like my wife shouldn't have to go in, but I don't know. The world, as they say, the world is a changing. When I was a kid, my mom, I was 14, 13. I was riding my bike for miles all over the place.
Same. And that's how, when we left there, and that's how I had felt like I was like, I literally, after I started actually thinking and processing it and thinking, oh my God, this could have been a super close call. Like this, all the things started going through my mind of what could have happened. And I literally felt like I was going to puke, like physically sick. And then I thought, like, I can't, like, the mom part of me is like, oh, I want to go check the bathroom before you go in, and I want to do this, and I want to walk around the mall with you, but they're 14 and 15, and I'm like, I can't. I mean, I don't want to impress, like, fill them with fear, right? You want
Yeah,
them to
because
be
I mean,
aware.
this is rare. This does not
Yes.
happen to everyone, but and
Right.
maybe we hear more about it because of the media and social media.
Right.
But there's also in this state in Michigan, they closed down the mental health hospitals. Mental health, I mean, it's proven is just out of control. The problem with
Right.
people suffering. So, you know,
Right, and even if, say, the guy did have he has some type of mental issue, there was still no doubt in the girl's mind that there was a plan or a purpose with what he was doing. I mean, it, like Ellie had said, she was like, I would feel like if it was someone mentally handicapped and I seen them, that I would think they would be scared, or they would be asking questions, or they'd be like, am I in the wrong bathroom? And she's like, he was purposely looking under stalls, shaking the doors,
yeah,
naked, you
yeah,
know.
that's even more than like that you hear about people being on the sex offender registry for urinating in public. That's more than that. Someone just says, um, since when does mall security have psychology degrees? That's
Right.
that's the, that's the issue too. They're not trained they're not trained to know the law. They're trained, anti people from stealing and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, they should have immediately called the police, and that's
Yes.
my opinion.
Agree. 100%. So we are going back down. Like I said, I had talked to the police department, and so we have to drive back down there, and do the report. So the
Uh,
thing is like, I don't know if they took his name, if they have ID, if they know any of that. I mean, I guess there's cameras everywhere,
I
right?
would,
There could
yeah,
be that option.
I would hope they took his name. Yeah, and there are cameras, but they might expire at. This was on Friday,
Yes.
so
So
yeah, I
when
would
it
hope
did
so.
happen, they acted really quickly. They were there and immediately, like, took him and went outside. So after they were outside, Like, I don't know what happened outside. I don't know if they waited around and talked. I don't know if they called anybody. I don't know. Um, she on the phone wasn't like giving me a lot of information, probably because she feels like there wasn't a report done, so she can't breach that and give me
Yeah,
information about him.
yeah.
She just said that they didn't do a report because of that.
Geez, if I was, I don't know, your husband, if I was, boy, I'd be tempted to beat his ass. But then
Well, and that that's the crazy
I
thing is
end up in jail.
I kept thinking like, "Oh my god, if maybe I should have been in there with her," which she's 14 and 15. I mean, they're plenty old enough to walk around and go to the bathroom by themselves. And my mom actually said, "Thank God you weren't." Like, "Thank God you weren't in there,"
You would have whooped
because
his.
I would have been picking you up from jail. The kids would have been left at the mall alone. Like,
My wife Katie just commented on my locals chat here. Said it's hard to be a parent and know what to do anymore. You want to be able to let your children be independent, but we can't. It's just
right.
it's weird. So someone just said everyone needs to watch their backs, be very aware of your surroundings. Yeah, but you don't think, like, I did a story last year in Sandusky, Michigan, which is in the middle of nowhere. This lady was in a thrift store and a guy grabbed a girl and took her in the bathroom and was going to probably sexually assault her, but the mom stopped it. The guy ended up having mental illness, but he was still charged though. So I guess the point
Right.
is it doesn't have to be New York or Chicago. It can be anywhere.
Well, and for all we know, maybe him shaking the door and smirking at her, and maybe he was waiting for one person to be in there one on one alone, right? Maybe he
Yeah.
was waiting for that last girl. We don't know. Um, yeah, I don't, yeah,
Yeah, I would. Yeah, and the reason I wanted to talk to you, this is rare. This doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen. And if it is, we don't know if it's a mental illness. That may have been a complete lie. He
right,
may just be a pervert, and if that's the case, he really deserves to whatever he gets. But yeah, the mental illness it's out of control. I mean, the depression and so forth. But and with sex crimes, with people, it's hard to cure. I've done so many stories in my career, and there are people who cannot be rehabilitated. And this
right,
guy, maybe if he would have been arrested, sometimes that's where people get the help they need.
right. Well, and I think too, like you said, my daughter had said, like, first, she was like, you always think of this, and we've talked about it, and I've always told them to be aware. And you think you know how you're going to react. And then she was completely shocked after the fact of how she did react. Right. And I told her, I was like, even though you didn't yell and scream, like, because you were paralyzed by fear, you didn't leave that girl in there that was a complete stranger alone. Like, that's a
Yes,
big deal.
no, she was a
And
hero. She was a
you
hero.
always,
Yeah.
like, she said, you hear it all the time and you never think it's going to happen to you. You always think it's somebody else. So it was a, a good wake up call, I guess, to them of how easily it could happen. And for me as a mom, like, when we got home, and I have a younger daughter who was in class with your daughter, they're 11. And when I explained to her, I started telling her what happened, and I realized she's 11, and I'm always telling her to watch out for strangers. But when Ellie had said, I mean, for all we know, he could have raped somebody or something. And I realized she just looked at me, and I'm like, she has no idea what that even means yet. And
Exactly.
so, and I realized, like, I really have to have some hardcore talks with them. It made me realize, like, we're in this little bubble almost, and that she had no idea. She seemed completely confused. Like, she was like, why would this guy do this? Like, what would he do to a girl? And then I realized it's really sad that I have to sit down and have a conversation that's for her very uncomfortable, for her to fully understand the extent of what could happen and why we got to be careful, you
Yeah,
know?
that's a sad part. I know when I was, like, I'm 49 years old now, but it seems like, yeah, when I was younger, the innocence is gone, kind of, and
Yes.
obviously. Okay, so one last thing. What is your message to? I mean, she did the right thing. She was a hero. She looked out for that other girl and she didn't have to stick around, but she did, which is great. And I'm sure that girl appreciates it and her family. So, what is a message to just be extra cautious? But like Katie said,
Always
you
always
don't.
go in pairs. Like, never
Okay.
alone. Like, I mean, that other girl that went in there was all alone. She coulda I don't know where her mom was in the mall or if one of them got sent in alone. I think,
Yeah.
like, we tell them I don't know how many times I've told my kids, go together," and they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't have to go, she's in there," or "She went over here." Like, how important it really is to stick with your friends, and I think that makes a difference, like, being together.
It does. And yeah, because two versus one, exactly. And yeah, someone says have the conversation. It's sad that we have to have that conversation,
Mhm.
but
Yes.
it's the crazy world we live in. Okay, well, hopefully this message will help and um, make parents realize to have that talk and to try to do it as gentle. I have a 6-year-old as well, and he always says, "Ah, he'd kick their butts, whoever it is." But
Right.
it's yeah, it's sad that you have to have the discussion. So
And how
I
easily it could I mean, if I would have even I don't know how many times I've stood outside the bathroom and sent them in, and because she was so scared, I could have been 10 feet away outside the bathroom and not have had any clue that was going on in there. I wouldn't have, you know,
yeah.
either.
I mean, and
So,
I wouldn't think maybe I'm naive. I shouldn't be. I'm like, oh, it's a girl's bathroom, and but I know, my God, a guy. I don't think, oh, a guy's going to be in there, but you know,
yes.
yeah. But now I just, yeah, who knows? Okay. Someone just said I need to go to the mall and ask some questions. Well, maybe I will do that. We'll see. Okay.
Right.
Or I can email them and see. Yeah, absolutely, because that should be reported on. So, if you hear anything else, message me and I'll let
Yes, I will.
everyone know.
Okay. Thank you.